we're back for some more Witch in the Holy Night after I got my coffee and fixed stuff around. I mean, we'll see how this new setup goes. I'll still put Stream Disconnect Simulator in the stream title. That was so irritating for the past maybe. No, it was like this week and then last week that I was getting genuinely irritated. But anyway, last time we left off, well, I finished recording on the part where yeah, Aoko's about to freaking eliminate Soujuro after finding out the obvious. Oh boy. I don't know. It's like, I mean, aside of the awkwardness and what goes around, because everyone within Mizaki High School is getting investigated, and then apparently Sojo was like the only one that wasn't. Although one of the funny parts was Sojo got apparently kicked out of the club because he couldn't swim, and he was trying to go to a freaking swim club and shit. Oh, I got. Hold on. I will be right back. While that, I'll put some background music to it. Oh, okay. There we go. I think that's what happened. I think I was muted for a few seconds. That's fine. I was probably gone for quite a while. All right. Let's see how this next episode turns out. Night of the Witches. That was more like Night of the Bitches. Oh, it's chapter 5. Has it been 5 chapters thus far? I could have sworn I was recorded quite a lot more longer than that, but it's all mostly me just laughing at certain things in mind. Sojiro returned to his apartment on foot as per routine under a blanket of clouds in the night sky. The rusty stairs of his apartment building clanged with each step. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see the bicycles parked by the apartment building's outer wall. He debated the pros and cons of a bicycle, how much easier life would be versus the expense, the convenience versus the necessity, but in the end, decided one was not right for him just now. The pros and cons of a bicycle? I mean, there are certain places you can use a bicycle on, but I think it's more convenient than just like tirelessly walking. Do they have buses? Did they even have bus routes in the well, the game was taken in like in the 80s or something, so whatever. I'm talking modern necessities in the fucking fictional setting. Why am I even bothering at this rate? Clutching the bag of apples under his arm, he took out the key to his residence.
あれば便利だけど、なくて
He tilted his head in confusion. More and more, he found himself preoccupied with such random thoughts when the real issue at hand was deciding what to do with the apples he had received. He placed the paper bag by the sink and switched on the lights. It was just after 10 in the evening. With the end of term exams just around the corner, he had come home an hour earlier than usual. As he made back for the kitchen to pick one of the apples to snack on, he found an envelope stuffed in his mail slot. The envelope had no name, return address, or stamp. Inside was a single piece of paper that had only the sender's name and a short message. It read, let me guess, the unknown message is like, meet me at the something something in the middle of the night. It's obviously gonna be Aoko.
話があるので 今夜どこそこのここに来られたし。大事なようなので、来るまでずっと待っている。言うまでもなく、他言無用。
Oh yeah, I knew it. It is going to be obvious because Alka was going to plan something. He was planning something devious. What to do with him? A concise set of orders, neatly written. It was signed Aoka Ozaki. She had been considerate enough to enclose a detailed map of the meeting place. Puzzled, he cocked his head to the side and then headed out the door. He's like, well, I guess I can't go to bed. Afterward, upon the room's sole tenant leaving the premises, the envelope burst into flames and evaporated without a trace, as though it had never existed in the first place. Wow, okay. By the late 80s, Japan's post-war economic boom had somewhat stabilized and the city experienced a period of steady growth. The city's modernization marched on, and the Japan Railway's train station, a symbol of the new era, neared completion. In Mizaki's neighboring town of Yashirogi, a new symbol of its own was about to be born. Yashirogi Bread and Kitsyland. It was Mizaki's worst investment. Years later, it would be dubbed the fool's gold of the economic bubble, a relic of a bygone age.
この町には夢とか遮奪さが足りない。
10 years ago, Yashirogi's renowned Tokitsu Baking Company ran factories all across the nation. Its proprietor was a middle-aged gentleman, then age 56, by the name of Yurihiko Tokitsu, known affectionately by most as Topan. He took it upon himself to begin development on an estate on the outskirts of Yashirogi and broke ground on a recreational wonderland that he hoped to be the pride of Mizaki City. Well, is he trying to create like some Disneyland looking thing just to grab the attention? Grab Mizaki City's attention, that is. The long-awaited opening came in 1981. After 3 years of an investment, this local amusement park, full of all kinds of hopes and dreams, began its short-lived tenure. Well, it covered more than 85 square acres. Its magnificent merry-go-round dazzled all who passed through the park's gates. Its roller coaster twisted and turned about the edges of the park like a writhing Japanese dragon. Its Ferris wheel, packed beyond necessity with gimmicks, was said to have tested the limits of modern engineering.
完璧だ。遊園地に必要なものはすべて積み込んだ。
Old Yurihiko looked upon his creation and smiled. Only boosting his confidence was the fact that its grand opening was staged during a period of prosperity, the springtime of the world. But what? In spite of this, they splendidly miscalculated the balance between aspirations and sophistication. Oh no. Its mascot, Kitsy, was poorly designed and appeared like a cheap knockoff. What, like a cheap knockoff of Mickey Mouse? Is that why? The park was stuffed to the brim with bread stands. Even its impossible to navigate mirror maze seemed out of date from the start. There are no dreams to be had at Kitsyland. only nightmarish satire. Numerous trade magazines lambasted Kitsyland's shortcomings, and customer attendance declined. There was even an incident where a 6-year-old strayed from his mother, had an accident, and nearly died. I'm gonna be for real. When is there ever a safe amusement park? 1986, 5 years after the park opened. The situation had grown from bad to worse, and the park was hemorrhaging money. On top of everything, Yurihiko, who had bet everything on the success of mascot Kitsy, retired, and Kitsyland's operations were officially in trouble. And thus, amidst the scorn of nearly all residents of the area, ended Misaki City's one and only amusement park. What's more, perhaps best described as a footnote to this bagel. This is embarrassing. Hold on. Debacle. Yeah, that's debacle. Debacle, whatever you're calling. Whatever. The self-proclaimed Parisian artist who designed the mascot, Toki Julich, was said to have snapped his brush in mourning over the closure of the park. Returning to the present, I don't know what's the current present really. It was midnight, and the Kitsyland of today was a shadow of its former glory. Wow, so much for that. That's funny. Okay. Like a doll abandoned in the corner of a toy box, the lonely park was illuminated only by the lights of the town that continued to live around it.
なるほど。
It does look like a bit of a ghost town, if you ask me. Soujuro closed the Yashirogi guidebook that he had picked up on the way here. The story of its history was almost difficult to believe, but he supposed this was what people referred to as entropy. The park's front gate was unlocked. When he worked here the previous time, the iron fence was locked shut with a rusty chain, but the chain was nowhere to be seen, and the gate left ajar. Are you telling me that just people can just like walk on in? Is that what you're trying to tell me right now? Following the map drawn in the letter, Soujuro quickly made his way inside.
急ぎのようなんだろうけど、こんな夜中に何なんだ一体。
Soujuro complained, quite out of character for him. It was probably because, in spite of his naivety, even he knew that something was amiss. Though the park was abandoned, this was still trespassing. Unlawful entry, larceny, burglary. These were certainly not things, or perhaps crimes, that Soujuro was proud to do, but...
すまない。お金は払えないんだ。ただで入って申し訳ない。
It's already abandoned in to begin with. It's already shut down. Why what do you mean you're sorry? Money, apparently, was why his conscience was gnawing at him. He clapped his hands in apology toward the statue of Kitsy, on whose eyes the paint had begun to aptly dissolve. Soujuro passed the mascot bleeding red paints from its eye sockets and began to walk the night park. The building's colors had faded. The collection of machines was rusted. The man-made residents no longer felt the passage of time. Even the ghosts themselves could not endure the disparity between this forsaken place and its previous grand stature It was like a fossilized dream. These were the ruins of a paradise both created and abandoned by man and reality. The economy had stabilized, and the standard of living was on the rise. Nobody was overly concerned with the future. These were the remains of a wild and exciting era. His breath turning to white wisps before him, Soujuro continued through the abandoned amusement park. Though void of human presence, this was not nearly as frightening as the darkness deep in the mountains. City suburbs can take many different forms, but Kitsyland was unusual for an amusement park, insomuch as it had been built adjacent to a residential district. The park was surrounded by a forest, but even that ultimately was man-made. It was no different from the curtains on a classroom window. If he were to scale the iron fence encircling Kitsyland and break through the 20 yards of forested trees, he could make it back to the familiar townscape. Though the amusement park tended to arouse dread in the city folk, to Soujuro it was a little different from the commotion and terror of downtown. Downtown it goes. The central plaza was as silent as a grave. According to the map, the meeting spot was west of here. Let's see here if I could just put that there. Waiting for Soujuro at his destination was a rugged, imposing, magnificent castle towering before the backdrop of the cloudy night sky. I know. Surprisingly enough, the stream didn't Roblox itself. Like, I don't know how, but it is what it is, it seems. Even for an abandoned park, it was a remarkable structure. If the roller coasters and the Ferris wheel were loud, intense attractions, this was comparatively quiet and easygoing. You know what? This abandoned amusement park might as well be a historical site. Or can we call it a... how can we call it? Could be a museum, if anything. I don't know. Not sure how you can actually call it, really. It was one of Kitsyland's 3 iconic structures, and in a way, the wicked fortress that guided this paradise town, the path of closure. Generally speaking, amusement park mazes generally fell into one of 2 categories. Labyrinths, which disorient visitors with their sheer size, and mirror houses, which disorient visitors with optical illusions. Many of a labyrinth's guests enjoyed the brief sense of adventure that it afforded. Over the years, however, it would be usurped by the ever-increasing thrills of new attractions. Such was the way of all trends, the curse of fads. The new must give way to the newer. On the other hand, the House of Mirrors was a time-honored, beloved staple. Even within the confines of a classroom's dimensions, well-placed mirrors and well-directed light could both perplex and delight its visitors. And figuring in the cost of maintenance, a well-designed House of Mirrors could far outlive its labyrinth behemoth. Brethren. Am I almost done with Nasu's second greatest work? I'm on chapter 5. I mean, keep in mind, I do my weekly recordings. So, even if both types faded into obscurity, they would remain a staple of what constituted an amusement park. However, that didn't mean that combining them would produce double the fun. Together, they transformed from entertainment into an uncanny realm from which those who dared to step within could never leave. Wonderful. In a similar sense, Kitsy's Mystery Tour Castle was the park's very own otherworld. What? You mean to tell me that place is going to an other dimension? That's not surprising at all. I mean, when was this ever a thing? Indeed, 5% of visitors ended up requesting staff assistance to get out. Modeled after European castles, it was greater than a football field in length, and the interior was further split into 3 floors. 2 floors above ground and 1 below, lined with mirrors from top to bottom, equal parts complex and vast. The maze demanded at least 30 minutes, even from veterans. 1 visit was all it took to be struck by claustrophobia for hours. It was this labyrinth that now stood in Soujuro's way.
真っ暗ってわけじゃないな。電気とかついてるんだろうか。
No, I don't think. If the amusement park's already shut down, then why are the lights already? I thought they already took it out by then. It seemed that Soujuro, unaware of what a house of mirrors even was, concerned himself only with its lighting. He checked the letter from Aoko once more. The letter read, "I will be waiting in the first floor lobby of the House of Mirrors." That meeting place was definitely here. There was something to see by, at least, as he could just make out light faintly through the open doors. Putting aside his suspicions, he headed toward the entrance. The sound of his steps against the brick-laid path echoed faintly. He was far from the hustle and bustle of the city. What the hail? Bustle of the city. Oh, God. The park's clocks no longer made tick nor the talk. And the winter's bites no longer blew in the night. From within the silence, the stillness that could cause any onlooker to hold their breath, Soujuro stopped abruptly at the entrance to the House of Mirrors.
ところで青崎、そんなところで何してるんだ?
Yeah, why is that? He called out, turning back toward the plaza. A sound rang out as if someone had dove behind a garbage can and it fell to the ground in their haste. A short silence ensued. For a moment, the abandoned park returned to its previous hush. Resigned to her having been exposed, the girl appeared from her hiding place. Wait a minute. How does he know that she was hiding? Like, he can guess what time it is without having a clock on his... Well, there's no phones. There's no smartphones in the late 80s as far as I know. They're like watches. Look, this normie is too powerful. I call it bullshit. Oh. His voice died in his throat as he took in the sight of the girl's familiar face and unfamiliar attire. Unfamiliar? Well, why wording like that? Is it because he's already used to seeing her in a uniform? This Aoko, with her long hair flowing in the breeze, was different from the Aoko that Soujuro knew. The resolute stance and posture she took exuded the strength of her will. She stared directly at him with a sharp-eyed, piercing gaze. Her eyes were glowing with a dim phosphoric light, enough to give Soujuro pause that he might be hallucinating. An icy coldness and a girl's strength. Soujuro lacked a sense of danger, but the sense of imbalance caused even him to feel the malice in the air. It was as though the Yuki Onna spirit of folklore had climbed out from a ghost story and appeared here in reality.
Aozaki.
Instinctively, Soujuro took a step back. Surprised, he was starting to feel concerned. An unpleasant premonition rose to the surface, bringing with it a sense of anxiety. In spite of this, he felt obliged to honor urban etiquette by seeing if she was alright.
その顔を見るに何かあったのかと一応聞いておくんだけど。
Oh, now it's dropped frames. Oh, that's lovely. Without acknowledging him, Aoka took a step forward. Her figure, this atmosphere, Soujuro found himself recalling a recent memory. His twisted and knotted apprehension melted away and was replaced with a growing realization. The girl before him was very similar to someone he had seen before. That night in the park, though he had only seen her from behind. Apparently, closing and reclosing amplifier made it so the string reset itself. Ain't that a bummer? With increasing certainty causing him to swallow nervously, he noted that they might as well have been identical.
何をしていたかって話なら見ての通りよ。ここで獲物が通り過ぎるのを待ってたの。あなたが入ってから私も入って逃げ道をなくすつもりだったから。
Aoko said, perturbed by the swift change in plans.
そうか。待ち合わせ場所は合ってたんだな。
It sounds like he has no idea what's going on. What a card. Okay. Soujuro was mightily relieved he had not got the wrong place. It was unclear whether he felt confident about dealing with what was to come, or if he had simply failed to grasp the hopelessness of the situation. Aoko ignored his obtuse response and continued.
私はね、しずきくん。嫌いな人とか憎い人とかは人並みにいるんだ。ただちょっと変なのが敵になるやつの条件でね。
Your enemies are never on people on your shit list? Man, even that part confuses me. Cold emotion burned in her eyes. Her feet had already moved one step closer to Soujuro. Soujuro's sense of foreboding was growing stronger, wondering if what he sensed was bloodlust. He retreated another step. Continuing as so, they maintained a distance of just 15 feet.
昔から私は嫌いな相手でも敵と思ったことはなかったの。 でも逆に、好きな相手を敵だと思うこともあった。
Well, that's strange.
理由は単純。
She held her right arm out. The light about her was no illusion.
当たり前のことだけど。私は、私の感情を乱すやつが敵なのよ。
Throws you out of whack is your enemy. Throws you out of whack. Something that drives you nuts. Her arm moved again. It was instantaneous. Something shot past Soujuro in the blink of an eye, missing him by just a foot to his left. He's like, what the fuck? Before his eyes, a blue light, something akin to a fireball, had ignited from nothing. He finally understood what was happening.
ちょっと待った。今のは大変見覚えがある。
She ignored his dim-witted reaction.
外したか。
She missed. Oh, maybe it's because he dodged it, that's why. Aoko muttered to herself. The fist-sized hole the blue lights had made in the House of Mirrors crackled and smoldered. A shot like that could easily cave in a human skull, in addition to burning it to a crisp.
ああ、こんな射程で外すなんて、アリスに見られたら自殺者ね。
Wow.
でも、これで分かったでしょ？二度目だものね。あなたにとっては。
Gonna spam. That's your plan? Spam fireballs and shit? Soujuro backed away swiftly. Things were beyond incomprehensible. He was close to losing the ability to think at all. All he could make out was the figure of the dependable student council president, or at least what he had thought was the president, and the memories of the park that night 2 days ago. He had never experienced anything like this. Though most people living in a civilized country would have never seen anything like it either. A lethal weapon that could kill with nothing more than the pull of the finger had a way of suspending the ability of its target to determine between not just good and evil, but dreams and reality, past and future. And the more peaceful someone's life had been, the stronger that suspension was likely to be. All that one could think about was the fact that they were alive at that very moment. It was as if he was an unwritten character on a blank piece of white paper. There was no before, there was no after, there was only what came next. This was a very common thought process for anyone staring down the barrel of a gun.
あ、命乞いはやめてね。意味ないから。
What if I do want to beg? Technically, I kind of want to, given the situation.
でも、恨み事ならご自由に。殺す側の義務として一言一句聞いてあげる。
Oh boy. By saying it was pointless, she made it sound more like she would not listen to what he had to say. However, Soujuro was in such a state of shock that it did not even enter his mind to speak up. All he knew, for reasons unknown, was that the girl in front of him wanted him dead.
嘘つきにも程がある。
Why didn't you tell me, Tobimaru? What the fuck? that she was gonna get on my ass. We're already 5 chapters in.
飛び丸のバカ。何がそんな生き物はいないだ。実際いるじゃないか、こんなお化けみたいなのが。
Oh. Tobimaru is like, well, I'm gonna warn you. There's someone out there in the night that's gonna kill your ass. Soujuro felt that if he had said that out loud, the second blast would come even quicker than the last, so he kept it to himself. His mental expletives stirred his mind from paralysis to mere panic. Well, the thing is, if Tomimaru would tell the truth, then I'm pretty sure his ass would have been on the line. This response came not from confidence, however. Someday out of the blue, someone is going to kill me. While it may have seemed like a baseless belief to
で
hold,
もそうだった。都会には殺人事件がある。ルールを破れば殺されるのは当たり前だってちゃんと教えてもらってた。
well, so much for that. To Soujuro, the situation seemed to perfectly align with his inexperienced understanding that the city was a coldly pragmatic place. As far as he was concerned at this moment, being killed by a classmate was not something to be so surprised by. Is it? In a society where murder was possible, he was able to accept this sort of situation as natural. Of virtually no concern was the series of events that led to Aoko's aggression toward him. The only thing that truly confused him was Aoko's blue fireball. Soujuro swallowed with an audible gulp. To anyone who may have been watching, it was the response of a victim paralyzed by fear.
そういうことよ。ようやく理解してくれたわね。多くは語らないけど、あなたにはここで死んでもらう。魔術は隠匿するものなんて言っても、そっちには関係のないことだし。単に運がなかったって思えばいいわ。大事なのは、私があなたを殺したってことだけだから。
It's like, well, I may have to kill your ass because I'm assuming you spied on me. That's part of the rules. Oh, wow. Well, we're cooked. Done talking, Aoko once again lifted her right arm. There was a hum, like a machine. Blue lights began to revolve about her arm beneath her sleeve. This was taking longer than last time, leading Soujuro to believe that it was going to be much stronger than the attack that was still scorching the wall behind him. Their realization caused his panic to heighten.
いやなんだつまり始末するとかしないとかあの夜のお化けは青崎だったとか都会は本当に込み入ってるとかそういうことじゃなくて。
His thoughts became jumbled. We are flabbergasted. His heart pounded like a hammer. This was no time to be standing still. He was not sure if the girl in front of him was really human. And more importantly, even if he could accept the events unfolding before him, when all was said and done,
待て、人殺しはいけないんだぞ。
even if it was a fact of life in the city, Soujuro was not about to lie down and die.
分かってるわよ、そんなことは。
No. Maybe. Soujuro's scream, still entirely oblivious, was just a thing to invoke Aoko's full wrath. Uh-oh. When in doubt, run. Aoko fired a barrage of magical blue bullets. In an instant, Soujuro dashed into the shadows behind him, into the entrance to the House of Mirrors. When in doubt, take cover.
なんだい今のなんだ
He darted feverishly down the hall. What do you mean? What the hell was that? It's called projectiles. Your ass is gonna get cooked. After a mere few feet, he was left completely out of breath. This was due to his shock at seeing yet another attack, fiercer than the first, that he never seen in his life, and because he couldn't shake the thought that if he hadn't moved even a second later, he would be dead. He could not afford to stop. The sound of merciless footsteps closed in behind him.
けど助かったここならなんとか
He threw everything into his legs as he sprinted. A straight, narrow passage, about 60 feet long, connected the entrance to the main lobby. At this rate, if he could just make it to the lobby, he was sure he would be able to find as many hiding spots as he needed.
助かった
He arrived in a large, open space. This was the first floor lobby. There were 3 passageways. One led to the basement floor, one connected to the first floor maze, the other was a set of stairs leading to the second floor. Soujuro did not particularly care which one he chose, so trusting his intuition, he made a run for the first floor maze when... Oh. Let me guess. He just hit an invisible wall? He smacked his head into a transparent wall. Yeah, okay, well, close enough.
鏡
Kagami.
ええ
That's...
面倒だけどそれならフェアでしょ追いかける方にも逃げる方にも有利不利がある
A somehow cheerful voice echoed in his direction. There was no need for Soujuro to even turn around. In the very same mirror he had crashed into, he could see Aoka Ozaki's figure slowly approaching.
それと1階の奥にある出口は封鎖しといたから結界じゃなくて物理的に
Is that so?
やりすぎて封鎖っていうより瓦礫土砂崩れどっちでもいっかとにかく下手に出口に近づくと崩落に巻き込まれるから生き埋めが嫌なら近寄らないことね
Panicked by the impending footsteps, Soujuro groped for the wall. He could see the stairs to the second floor. He did not understand what Aoko had meant earlier, but he at least knew that the first floor was not going to save him.
ま、私としてはそっちのが助かるけど形式上事故死の方が後始末とか楽だから
No. Behind him was a creature beyond words. As she continued her idle taunting, she lifted her right arm ostentatiously. Even from above her clothes, one could see some kind of strange, incongruous pattern upon her body. The veins beneath her skin. They made it seem as though something inhuman was circulating her body. Wow, I know. Shocking. Whether out of pity or repulsion, Soujuro stopped for just a moment. His pursuer evaded his gaze.
ああこれ普段は塗り薬で隠しているんだけど今日は特別魔術刻印って言ってね魔術師の証みたいなものよほら光が回ってるでしょこれがさっきのスナップわかりやすく言うと弾丸の元 今日は調子いいし、私魔力を効率よく使うのだけは自信あるし。うん、あと30回ぐらいかな、さっきみたいな装着ができるのは。
You talk like you have an ammo capacity. Perhaps she was on an emotional high, for her voice had become frightfully friendly. The substance of the conversation could not have been any more unsettling, however.
そもそも何を言っているかよくわからないんだけど、青崎。
わからない？弾数はあと30発ってこと。そこまで逃げ切ればあなたの勝ちよ。とりあえず今日のところはね。
今日はって明日もあるのかな。
He's like, is this some kind of test? Soujuro knit his brows. Aoko's expressions creased into a scowl at his behavior. Although he was panicking, it seemed that deep down he still did not feel the full weight of the crisis. She knew he still didn't get it.
宣言はしたわ。自由時間はこれでおしまい。まだ罵り足りないだろうけど、ま、その手の時間はキリがないしね。この辺りで諦めて。
Trash talk left in you? What is this, a gamer moment? It appeared Aoko had prepared this theoretical dialogue ahead of time, not to allow her opponent time for futile pleading, but to give him the time to curse her, his killer. Such forthrightness was her modus operandi. But this victim, however, it was not going as she had hoped.
とにかくそういうことだから。じゃ、狩りの時間と行きましょうか。
Well, that was definitely enough yapping as is. Her voice was void of emotion, and her eyes ruthless as they bored into her prey. This time, Soujuro finally accepted that he was going to die. They took... What do you mean? I thought you already knew that by now. Like... My God. How long has it been? Yeah, it's been over 48 minutes by then. Where is the save? Because, let's see, search for more. Yeah, save. Is this like part 10 by then? It does definitely feel like it. It does feel like we're approaching 10 parts worth of stuff. Yeah. I mean, well, I'll read that. I'll continue reading that later. We'll see if Soujuro can survive this or not. I can't believe this. 5 chapters in, and Soujuro is about to get cooked. Nah, I'm kidding. He's supposed to be the main dude. Like, he's just sitting there. I was like, wait, what? You mean to tell me that we're... Okay. Well, stop it here for the time being.